Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be showing you how to build an epic cave on Prehistoric Kingdom. In the last video we created an outdoor habitat for our cave bears, and now the time has come to build them a shelter. So without further ado, let us begin. Tip number 1. Always make sure you have the animal that you're building your cave for present at the time, so you can make sure that the entrance is big enough for the animal to actually fit inside. The last thing that we want is to finish building your cave, and then when you go to put your animals in, the entrance is too small. Or the other way around, you've made it far too big and it just looks really silly. So you can see here we've got our bears outside the cave entrance, so we know that this is the right size for them. The next thing you want to do is try and make your entrance as interesting as possible. You can see here we've put in this lovely overhanging ledge, so when the bears walk out of their cave they can look over their enclosure and admire their kingdom. For the entrance itself, it's really easy. Just put 2 pillars at one side, then balance a longer shaped rock on top of those 2 pillars. But try not to make it too square. You can see that we've angled this one on a bit of a slope to try and make it look a bit more natural. We don't want it to look like it's been man-made. Once you've got your frame, you can add more rocks to make it look even more natural. Then you can start adding some vegetation in the cracks and crevices where the plant's roots will be able to get a hold. And one final touch, add a few boulders that have come loose from the cave itself. Tip number 2. Use the terrain tools to draw out your cave floor. This will give you a rough guide of what shape, size and style you want your cave to be. So as you can see, for this particular cave we've made 2 different chambers that are connected by tunnels. Tip number 3. Never ever make your cave flat. Not only is flat incredibly unnatural, but it's also incredibly boring. So make sure you add lots of layers to your cave. I personally like to lower the floor more the deeper that you go into the cave. So the further you go in, it's gradually just sloping downwards. Tip number 4. Once you've sorted the layers and the layout of your cave, it's time to start building your walls. Now this is where things start to become a little bit more complex and a lot more difficult. But don't let that put you off. I would suggest starting at the entrance of your cave and gradually building the wall as you go. And to keep things looking natural, make sure you use a variety of different formations, or you can change the shape, size and angle of your rocks. To help blend in your walls with your floor, there is a flat rock that is perfect for putting down on your cave floors. You can see I'm just putting them in there. That helps blend it in a bit so it doesn't just go straight from floor to wall. Another thing you can do is put in some boulders that have broken loose from the ceiling or the walls themselves and have now smashed all over the floor, and there's just boulders lying around here, there and everywhere. At this point you also want to start thinking about what areas of the cave are for the animals and what areas are for the guests. That's if you're going to allow the guests into the cave at all. It could just be a cave for the animals themselves, just to get a bit of privacy. But if you're going to build a big cave like this, you may as well let the guests come in and explore it. It'll make a brilliant attraction, and there's still plenty of space and hiding spots for the bears if they want to get away and have a minute to themselves. A great way to immerse your guests into the enclosure is to put in bridges, and you can see I'm just putting these ones that are crossing over the tunnels so the bears can walk underneath the bridge and the guests can get a really good look, but they also feel like they're really immersed inside this cave with the animals. Tip number 5. Once all of your walls are complete, you can then begin on the cave ceiling, but don't start this until all the walls are absolutely finished and you're happy with them, because if you start the ceiling before you've done the walls, it's going to get very, very difficult to do. This is without a doubt the hardest part of building a cave, because it's incredibly difficult to see what you're doing. You have to get the camera angle very low, and it's just very hard to see where you're putting the rocks. It's really easy at the beginning, but as you go on, it gets much more difficult. So you must have patience for this. Don't rush, take your time. Another thing you want to do here is blend the ceiling into the walls. You don't want the wall to go straight up and then it's just a flat roof. It'll look so unnatural. So the best rock you can use for the ceiling is this one right here that you can see I'm putting in. The reason for this is because it's not just flat, it's almost like an upside down staircase. It goes up in layers, so it just looks much more natural. If you go into a cave, you'll notice there are many different layers of rock. It's not a building, it's not got a nice flat ceiling with lovely straight walls. This is a cave. It's formed naturally as nature intended. So if you need any ideas, have a look at pictures of caves on the internet and try and get a little bit of inspiration. Tip number 6. Once you finish the roof, it's time to make a start on the outer shell. So far, your cave probably looks very realistic and natural on the inside, but just take a look at the outside. It probably looks like this, a complete and utter mess. To fix this, we're going to hide it by covering the cave in other rocks, making it look like a huge cliff or a mountain. But you must take care. When you're placing down your rocks, you may find that some of them penetrate through the ceiling and you'll be able to see them inside your cave. So every now and then, go inside your cave and check that nothing is out of place. Once you're happy with the layout of your rocks, you can start adding in trees and vegetation. This is going to help that outer shell blend into the environment and, yes, again, look more natural. Tip number 7. Add some stalagmites and some stalactites to your cave. These are mineral formations that grow in caves. Stalactites hang down from the ceiling, whereas stalagmites grow up from the floor. They form when rainwater seeps into cracks and crevices of limestone rock. As the water drips from the cave ceiling, it leaves behind deposits of calcite. When the droplets of water hit the floor, they also leave deposits here too. That's why you get these formations growing from the ceiling and from the floor. And sometimes they can even meet in the middle to create a column like these that I'm putting in now. These formations grow at an incredibly slow pace. A typical stalactite will grow 0.13 millimeters per year. However, under optimal conditions, with a constant supply of calcium-rich water, they can grow up to 3 millimeters per year. When you put these in, don't overdo it. You can have stalagmite overload where you just cover the whole cave in stalagmites and it'll just look ridiculous. So just pick a few corners of your cave, few areas where you want to put them, and make sure wherever you put them in pairs. So if you put some at the top, don't forget to put some at the bottom, because that water is dripping onto the floor as well. And the other way around as well, if you put some at the bottom, don't forget to put some at the top, because it won't look right if you don't put them in pairs. Tip number 8, add in some lights. After all, this is a cave, so it's going to get rather dark, and the last thing we want is a guest not being able to see where they're going and they fall over and then decide to sue us. It's not just about safety though. Adding lights to your cave will have a dramatic effect on the atmosphere. And depending on what colour lights you use, this can change the mood in an instant. It really is the cherry on top of the cake. Tip number 9. Add something interesting for your guests to look at. This can be something like a water feature, a Neanderthal base, or you can do what I'm doing here. Add in some bones and some skeletons of the unfortunate victims that were dragged back to the cave bear's lair. And tip number 10, subscribe to the channel for more ideas and inspiration for your builds on Prehistoric Kingdom. Check out the playlist on screen now for all our speed builds on Prehistoric Kingdom. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like. Join us next time where we'll be giving you a full tour of this cave and the outdoor habitat as well. We'll also be naming our cave bears. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.